Good morning. Today we are going to talk about just a general driver orientation. So to familiarize you with some of the key policies and requirements that we have here at Savory Creek, and just help you to have the most successful time with the company as possible. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the driver qualification file. So when you start with the company, you're going to be asked to fill out quite a bit of paperwork, and that's basically just so that we can get in compliance with the Federal Motor Carrier regulations, which say that we have to hold a driver qualification file for every driver. Now, this is whether or not you hold a CDL. So we treat you just the same if you have a CDL versus if you don't. Same type of paperwork required. So the first thing that you're going to get is a DOT handbook. This is specific to Savory Creek Enterprises, and this company handbook for the DOT regs will have just kind of anything you can think of there in black and white. So if you need to reference back to anything, for example, our drug and alcohol policy, our seatbelt policy, things like that, you will look in that DOT handbook. Everybody should have one of those. And then you will also get an acknowledgement of receipt to go along with that I need you to sign, just telling me that you did go ahead and receive that DOT handbook. Then you will have a driver's application. So as a driver for a company, you actually have to fill out a specific driver application versus just a generic application. So make sure the application that you are or have filled out is for a driver. Then you will see a cell phone policy. So back in 2013, there was a regulation that came out where they stated that now anybody operating a commercial motor vehicle, so that is a company vehicle essentially, not just a CDL required vehicle. Anybody operating a commercial motor vehicle is not allowed to use a handheld cell phone device. So you are allowed to use a Bluetooth at your own expense, but you are not allowed to use a handheld cell phone device while operating the vehicle unless you pull over and stop. So you'll have that policy, which is spelled out there, and then also a policy agreement for that coinciding with that policy. Then you will see some highlighted pages. Essentially, this is just some additional requirements that I need for compliance with Federal Motor Carrier. So go ahead and fill out all the highlighted areas. And then you're going to see a highlighted background consent form packet. So part of the driver qualification file is to have certain background checks and motor vehicle record checks. So the consent forms allow me to do that. It also checks your past safety performance at a previous employer, and just things like that. If you have any concerns about that, you can always give me a call. So moving through that, you will get that packet, you will look through it, you will sign and fill everything out, and then I will get the copy and make sure that I'm not missing anything from you there. My phone number is 970-620-2620. And again, you are welcome to call me if you have any questions or concerns about the paperwork that you are filling out. So moving forward with the orientation, I want to talk a little bit about pre and post trip inspections. So pre and post trip inspections, your pre-trip is going to be a visual walk around of your vehicle and your trailer, making sure that it's in good condition, that there's nothing alarming, no immediate things that need attention prior to being able to drive. That pre-trip does not need to be written down anywhere. It just needs to be a visual. Your post-trip inspection is going to be a visual inspection as well. So that's going to be at the end of the day when you're done driving. You do your post-trip inspection. And again, it can just be visual unless you notice something that requires immediate attention, needing fixed or whatnot before you drive it the next day. At that point, we have to have that post-trip inspection recorded. And I will talk about it on the next slide, but essentially you're going to be recording that within WorkMax under the maintenance quick reference file. So anyway, they can both be visual unless on your post trip you notice something that needs attention and needs fixed, then that has to be recorded. Additionally, you will have on the road inspections. So this information is found in your DOT handbook. But within the first 50 miles of travel, we want you to stop and check your cargo securement, make sure you don't need to tighten any straps or chains, make sure nothing is, jiggled loose. So go ahead and do that within the first 50 miles. And then again, after every 150 miles or 3 hours. That's again, just making sure that everything stays secure throughout your trip. So continuing on, vehicle maintenance. So like I said, if there is something wrong that you find in your post-trip inspection that requires attention from a mechanic, that defect does need to be noted, and it needs to be noted within WorkMax on the maintenance quick reference file. And what that does is allows us to track anything that was noted throughout the year on the vehicle and make sure that we have, coinciding information when that annual inspection is done once a year. So that's where that will go if you notice anything wrong with the vehicle. On the road, just in general, make sure you guys are listening for unusual sounds or unusual equipment sounds, signs that there might be trouble, things that you haven't normally heard. Make sure you're aware of any smells that seem unusual, that could signal trouble or something going on. If you feel any changes in the vehicle's response, so the steering, the braking, the shifting, anything like that just doesn't quite feel right, make sure you check into that. And then, just observe anything on the truck or the trailer or the equipment that seems defective, or the lights working properly, or the tires in good condition, just anything like that might affect the condition of that truck. The vehicle maintenance program, as well as your pre and post trip inspections, ultimately we're trying to catch anything prior to, first of all, you getting on the road, keeping you and others safe, and then also before anything could grow into a major problem where it's going to, take that vehicle out of commission for a while and cost a lot of money. And then again, with the vehicle maintenance, a couple other things I wanted to mention. Record keeping. So we are required by Federal Motor Carrier to keep track of all maintenance that is done on vehicles and trailers. So at the home office for Savory Creek, we have vehicle maintenance files and trailer maintenance files. What we need to continue to include in those files is any work that has been done on the trucks or the trailers. So it's very important for you guys to make sure that if you are, if you notice anything during your post trip that needs attention, that you record it in the maintenance quick reference guide. And additionally, if you are doing anything to the truck or trailer while you're out on the road or out on a job, that's just a quick maintenance thing, it needs to again be recorded in that maintenance quick reference guide so that then we can print that report off and put it within the vehicle file and keep track of all that. Another piece to that, I need copies of receipts of everything that is done or purchased for maintenance purposes for those trucks or trailers, because we include those receipts in the maintenance files as well. So that is a very, very key thing. So please get in the habit of doing that. If you have questions or don't know how to input something, call. But we do need to keep track of all that stuff. Another thing with the maintenance is our periodic maintenance. So essentially oil changes and things like that. We're on an every 5,000 mile basis. So make sure you guys are keeping track of your miles and when the maintenance is coming up due. You should have a sticker in the left-hand corner of your windshield that will help you keep an eye on that. And then lastly, the annual inspections. So annual inspections are a requirement for all commercial vehicles as well as commercial trailers. So you do need to have a current annual inspection for both your truck and trailer before you start driving. So it's a very good habit to get in to check for that in the morning before you even get going as kind of your part of your pre-trip inspection. Stickers are totally fine if you want to use the annual inspection sticker. However, keep an eye on that sticker because after time, they almost become unreadable. So just with weather and whatnot, the writing can kind of wear off. And if an inspector can't read the sticker, then they count it as a violation. So another way that you can get about or go around that is just making sure that you have a hard copy of the annual inspection in the cab of the truck as well. And that would be for both the truck and trailer. So questions on that, give me a call. You can also find some more detailed information on the vehicle maintenance program in your DOT handbook. I want to talk about cargo securement next. So I gave you guys two examples, or one summary essentially, and then one example of direct versus indirect securement. And I just want to make sure everybody is familiar with this. So I'm just going to go through and read it, but as you know, as it comes up on this slide, if you need to pause the slide and read it a little bit more carefully, feel free to do that. It's numbers, and so I just want to make sure everyone's comfortable with how to secure properly. So I'm going to read through here. So for articles that are not blocked or immobilized, that don't have a header board or something like that, if the article is 5 feet long or shorter and does not weigh more than 1,102 pounds, you just need one tie down. If you have a load that is not blocked or immobilized by a header board and is 5 feet long or shorter and weighs more than 1,102 pounds, you need two tie downs. If you have an article that is not longer than 10 feet, regardless of how much it weighs, it will need two tie downs. If you have an article that is longer than 10 feet, regardless of how much it weighs, you will need two tie downs within the first 10 feet and an additional tie down each additional 10 feet after that. For articles that are blocked or immobilized that do utilize a headboard, if the article is not longer than 10 feet, you just need one tie down. If the article is longer than 10 feet, you will need one tie down within the first 10 feet and one subsequent tie down for each additional 10-foot increment. Direct versus indirect securement is a concept that I want to make sure everybody understands because it definitely can dictate how you want to secure your cargo and how many straps, chains, tie downs you're going to use. So I'm just going to read this example real quick. But as a side note, before I get started, never be concerned about using too many tie downs. You will always get in trouble though for not using enough. So, you know, if you're unsure, throwing an extra one on there is a safe bet. So here's the example for direct versus indirect securement. So if you have an article that weighs 20,000 pounds, it would require a minimum of 10,000 pounds of working load limit in cargo securement. Using the indirect securement method, which is over the cargo from anchor point to anchor point, two 5,400 pound rated straps would be needed because that would give you 10,800 pounds of working load limit, or you could use three 4,700 pound rated chains that would give you 14,100 pounds of working load limit. Either way, you would meet your requirement. You cannot use less than that because you have to meet at least half of the weight of the article in working load limit of cargo securement. So again, the indirect method is over the cargo from one anchor point to another anchor point. if the cargo that you were hauling were a machine with built-in attachment points, which you guys might run into more often, and you use the direct method of cargo securement, which is a chain from the trailer anchor point to the cargo attachment point and then back, you would need 5 direct attachments or 4 direct and 1 indirect attachments. So either way, you are always trying to make sure that you at least have half of the working load limit in cargo securement of what the article actually weighs. Again, that concept is a little bit confusing, so if you need some more clarification, just pause the PowerPoint and you can read that example a little bit closer. The last topic that I want to talk about is hours of service and time cards and logbooks. So essentially, you have 14 hours of a working window every day, and within that 14 hours, you are allowed to drive 11 of those hours. Prior to hitting 8 hours of drive time, you have to have a 30-minute break. You guys are not allowed to go over 70 hours total on an 8-day schedule. So in addition to keeping your daily limit, you also have a weekly limit essentially. And so you have to keep an eye on that as well. And then if you get close to that 70 or at that 70, you have to have a 34-hour restart to kind of set your clock before you can start driving again. You can continue working, you just can't drive again. You have to have 10 consecutive hours off after the end of each shift before you start driving again. Again, you can keep working, but you can't drive until you meet all these requirements. For the most part, you guys fall under what's called the short haul exemption. So you are just required to fill out time cards every day. Your time cards are through WorkMax. And when you guys are out on jobs, say you have a job in Oklahoma, if you leave for Oklahoma from Wyoming, let's say, you are going to be required to fill out a logbook for your travel time. But once you get to your destination, your hotel or your rental house, wherever you're staying for that job, is going to become your home base. And therefore, as long as your home base is within your allotted radius, then you can just go back to using your time cards. You don't have to fill out logbooks while you're on a work site that's out of state or anything. CDL holders, you guys have 100 air miles to stay within to fall under that short haul exemption. If you go outside of that, you do have to do a logbook. And non-CDL guys, you have 150 air miles before you have to do the logbook and won't meet that short haul exemption. Another thing that I didn't mention is that if you are not stopping and starting your day in the same location, you will be required in that case to do logbooks as well. So again, for the most part, you guys are good with time cards unless it's your travel day to a job site where you start in one place and you end in another, or if you have to go outside of your radius. Some verbiage things that I want to talk to you about. If you guys are, let's say, on your way to Oklahoma and you get pulled over or have to go through a roadside and they ask to see your logbooks and you show them your log for that particular day, they'll likely question you about why you don't have logbooks for the previous 7 days prior. And you need to know that you need to know 2 things. So you need to explain to them that you're traveling to a job out of state. So you're doing logs for that particular day. But typically you are a local driver. So you fall under the short haul exemption and just run off of time cards. The other thing is that you need to know you are not required to carry time cards for the last 7 days with you. So if they want access to those, they can call the office and they can request them that way. So make sure you know that as well. You're not in the wrong there, so don't let them make you feel like you are. So yeah, that kind of takes us through some of the important orientation information that I want everybody to know when they just get started with the company. If you have any questions, again, please give me a call or look through your handbook. My phone number is the 970-620-2620. Thank you. Good morning. Today we are going to talk about just a general driver orientation. So to familiarize you with some of the key policies and requirements that we have here at Savory Creek, and just help you to have the most successful time with the company as possible. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the driver qualification file. So when you start with the company, you're going to be asked to fill out quite a bit of paperwork, and that's basically just so that we can get in compliance with the Federal Motor Carrier regulations, which say that we have to hold a driver qualification file for every driver. Now, this is whether or not you hold a CDL. So we treat you just the same if you have a CDL versus if you don't. Same type of paperwork required. So the first thing that you're going to get is a DOT handbook. This is